from Consumer Choice Center, David Clement, North American Affairs Manager. To the witnesses, thank you very much for accepting our invitation so that you can share with us your opinions and answer our questions for budget C-97. Mr. Clement, please.
Morning, members of the committee. First off, thank you very much for the invitation to appear before the Senate Committee on National Finance. My name is David Clement. I am the North American Affairs Manager for the Consumer Choice Center. As a global consumer advocacy group, we represent patients and consumers who embrace increased choice, innovation, and smart regulatory policy, which is what brings me here today. For my statement, I'd specifically like to address two cannabis-related items within Bill C-97, the first being Part 1H, the amendment to the income tax to reflect current regulations for accessing cannabis for medicinal purposes. So Part 1H changes the Income Tax Act so that newly legal forms of medical cannabis, edibles, topicals, extracts, will be eligible for the medical expense tax credit. So first off, as a group that represents consumers and patients, it is positive that the government is providing some relief and moving to allow new forms of medical cannabis to exist within the tax credit system. Although that does give patients some relief, it does nothing to address the longstanding issue of taxation on medical cannabis. We, who are among many, have significant problems with the government's decision to continue to tax medical cannabis, whether that be excise or sales. These taxes unfairly punish patients for the crime of simply using the prescription medicine that was given to them or prescribed for them. And so, although the expansion of what qualifies as a medical expense is appreciated, it would be much preferred if the government were to simply tax exempt medical cannabis as other prescribed medicines are. The second item I'd like to address is Part 3, which is the new excise tax rate framework for edibles, extracts, and topicals. So specifically, that is the new tax framework based on THC potency at a rate of 1/4 cent per milligram. When you combine that with a milligram of THC, when you combine that with the provincial rates, it's a cent per milligram of THC. So the first issue with this tax framework is obviously when it's applied to medical cannabis. It directly targets medicine based on efficacy. And we have data, a recent study from the Journal of Palliative Medicine that shows when examining medical cannabis usage patterns for cancer patients, they actually prefer their medicine to be high in THC, opting for potency over quantity. For medical patients, these new changes will ultimately mean that their more desired medical products of higher THC will be taxed at a higher rate than lower THC products, thus actually discouraging them or encouraging them to do the exact opposite of what they would otherwise prefer to do. The second issue with the changes in terms of tax rates and this framework, so the limit for edibles is 10 milligrams per package. That leaves the excise tax on those products to be relatively small. So 10 milligrams would be 10 cents. However, when we look at the products of topicals and extracts, the way the framework is set up could lead to steep additional costs for consumers. So if we take a topical or extract, the maximum THC in an immediate container is 1,000 milligrams of THC. At the higher threshold, that would mean that a, let's say, $40, 1,000 milligram THC topical product would carry a $10 excise tax attached to it, along with a sales tax. If we take that example of a $40 product, that means that once you combine those taxes would inflate the shelf price by close to 40%. And this matters, the cost prohibitive nature of it matters, because we as Canadians want the legal market to thrive for the purpose of stamping out the black market. Our concern is when you have excessive taxation, like I just mentioned, on these new topicals and extracts, it will make it highly unlikely that these products will be purchased legally and could actually serve to be counterproductive in the sense that it would give rise to more attractive, unregulated black market products, thus keeping consumers in the black market. And so, in closing, I think the question that we need to ask on these excise tax rates, specifically for medical cannabis, is does our federal government want to make regulated medicinal cannabis more or less affordable for the patients who need it? If the goal is ultimately to make medicine more affordable, then taxing medicine cannot be the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.